When it first came about, the project was very simple. You get 4 Canadian composers to write for the Afiara Quartet. That was the entry level.
An idea that came out of our work with Christos Hatzi's, who wrote us his 3rd string quartet. So these composers all have a connection with Christos.
And we asked that they have sort of a pop music quality to them, and I guess they could take that however they wanted it.
My name is Dinuk Wijeratne, and I'm a composer, a conductor, and a pianist. I was keeping in mind that we're trying to appeal to many different people, so classical music lovers, maybe some people who haven't heard a classical string quartet before. I would love to appeal to them with these pieces. So I thought I really need an angle for these songs, but also play to the fact that you are dealing with a quartet who can play the repertoire impeccably, you know, and with a lot of knowledge.
My name is Silberberg. What I wanted to do was to bring the classical string quartet to a diverse audience and to younger audiences, because I think that's very important.
My name is Teehan. Basically, I was trying to find a classical style string quartet that had enough fresh modern language that a DJ could sort of take something from it and easily sculpt a remix that's going to connect the two.
My name is Kevin Lau. I was actually approached by the Afiara String Quartet and Professor Christos Hatzi's, who was my supervisor in my doctorate program at U of T, to collaborate with this quartet on a new piece. And one of the parameters of this piece was this idea of exploring pop music, because traditionally the classical and pop worlds have been quite separate, even in the 21st century.
Okay, ready?
Okay, yeah, and just don't worry about tone, a lot of abandon.
Okay, let's do it.
Because 3 of the 4 composers were actually former students of mine, it was just kind of, I felt that comfortable about mentoring a project, because, you know, the last thing you're going to do is play teacher with people who are just kind of have just emerged and you know, they have their own developing personalities. But it was just like such a pleasure to see this whole project falling together.
So what we have is we have the string quartets, 4 of them, things that we can play in the clubs, in the programs that we do play. And you know, they're really rhythmic, and they really invite people in with the energy. And then the Skratch DJ was chosen, and he's a gentleman I wanted to work with for a long time. I followed him back maybe 15 years ago when he was DJing at Scribble Jam. And as a rapper myself, I was always into freestyle battles, and he was doing on turntables some incredible battle techniques. You know, he cultivated fun in all of this.
And so we got this idea of sort of a different kind of collaboration with the Skratch DJ, where how do we sort of formulate a new kind of interaction and a new kind of set of rules for how we interact with each other, both on stage and with the audience?
The general process of my contribution to this project was hearing the pieces in their entirety and then selecting what caught my ear and what I thought I could use to make my own music, and then getting the group in the studio and recording those pieces individually. So we'd take those parts, and so that I had the most control, I would ask the violins to play soloed, the cello to play soloed, the viola to play soloed, so that I would have that potential to layer and sort of repurpose the layers played through the turntable as an instrument. And then after that, consolidate that in my beat production-wise, and then send it back to them as the Skratch Bastid remix. For me, I've got this opportunity to work with a caliber of musicians that I normally don't have any access to, which is, you know, these people that have been playing these instruments their whole lives coming into my studio, and just sort of anything that I say they can do. Like, can you do that? Look, yeah, no problem, you know? They just lay it down right away, and that's been incredible, because normally I'm sort of used to working with whatever I've got laying around and making it happen, whereas this process was kind of the polar opposite of that. I've got these guys that know exactly what they're doing, and I just need to direct them on how to do it to give me the best tools to make this remix. So in that sense, it's been probably the most control I've ever had over a scratch composition piece, because normally you're just sort of multimedia repurposing things, but here I'm starting at the creation of the content.
I had no idea what he would do. It's so interesting to hear your own music and to hear how someone else picks up fragments of your music, picks up on what they find interesting and creates something entirely new.
We sat together and he had his turntable set up, and he was like, I was thinking, you know, I'm gonna, and I'm like, that's cool, but I have no idea what you're doing, but that's cool. What he came up with was this crazy like hip hop beat where he had like sampled the string quartet from different movements and just jammed them together in a way that was like cohesive, and it was powerful, and it was like simple and direct.
In some sense, I think that my collaboration with Skratch is an act of empathy, because, you know, what I do is so different from what he does, and yet we're kind of converging.
I had written 2 songs, and he'd found an interesting way to combine elements from both. And for me, there were 2 separate poems with 2 separate ideologies. And he combined them and created essentially something that was kind of like the child of the 2 different songs, which was something I would never have imagined.
When I heard it, I knew right away where the opportunities were for the string quartet to like step forward and shine. I could hear the holes that he had left for me. So that's great when you have a collaborator that is sympathetic and wants to share the artistic lifting with you. You know, he had done all this work to create an amazing bed, but there was also room for me. And so I was really excited when I heard it. I couldn't wait to get home and get working on it.
In some ways, for me, the most mind-blowing part of this whole exercise was the remixes.
Okay, thank you. And we're ready? Everybody set? Yes.
In the spirit of experimentation, it's been nothing like I thought it was going to be, but it's been a very exciting process and empowering process because it's a world I've never messed with before.
I suspect it's going to be as good as I imagined, but the bonus has been just interacting with them and just, you know, this sort of inspirational energy that comes out of just spending time with people for weeks and months on end. That's priceless.
We had no idea what the composers were going to come up with. And then we had no idea what Paul was going to be able to do with these pieces. And so with every new layer of this project that unveiled, there was a new set of variables of, well, we really have no idea what this could sound like and what this could be like to work on. Those were, I would say, the biggest risks, but to call them risks was maybe too much because they were all people who we sort of handpicked.
What's interesting is that when we talk about Bartók, he thought the most exciting music didn't happen in the center of the countries, but at its borders, where you have ecosystems smashed together. Yo-Yo Ma calls it the edge effect, you know, where you have different climates meet each other, then you have different species commingling, different flora, different fauna. It's a beautiful thing. And those are the kind of things, those are the kind of borders that we're always trying to attack, and we're always trying to meet people at those borders. And where Skratch Bastid lives is in a completely different place. And to come together in this way and to make something new has been beneficial for, I think, everybody involved.